something on the Just Talking series. And I wanted to make something that would allow me to get some things off my chest because there's usually some cool mini stories that pop up or something that I think is worth talking about, whether it's in Rocket League or it has some sort of spiritual context that somebody could take from it and learn something from it. It's been like this for a while, but when I was growing in soccer, I had a lot of good training, and regardless of whether there were coaches that were out there uh, that weren't professional, there were still so many coaches that knew what they were talking about when it comes to the game, just because they had a clear passion for it. And the reason why it ends up being that I'm just complaining more often than not is just because where we're at currently in the Rocket League scene, particularly when it comes to coaching, among a ton of other things, but particularly when it comes to coaching is, and this is something that I explained in a coaching session previously, which I said a lot of the approach from coaches nowadays in this current where we're at right now in this current landscape is symptomatic. So when they explain something, it's very much like when you go to the doctor. The doctor will say, "Okay, yeah, you have a lot of sicknesses nowadays. The way that they are treated now is very symptomatic, and they've gotten rid of a lot of natural remedies in order for people to be remedied for that. So, in fact, it's not actually when you take ibuprofen. I heard this from a doctor. He was a guy that was like a pharmacist for like 20 years. And he's like, when you take ibuprofen, he's like, do you have a headache because you have an ibuprofen deficiency? You know? He goes, no. You take it because in this, and he explains it. This is the natural remedy to headaches or whatever it is, and he explains. Do you do this because of this reason? I mean, everything is very symptomatic where we're at in this current landscape. I believe this is a product of just the game being so relatively new that there's not really a lot of good information out there for people to really rely on, because the backbone, like soccer's had like 300 years of like steady constant refinement. That's been soccer, but Rocket League is very new, and the game's only been out since 2015. I mean, minus SARP. You know, you could eventually count SARP, but the game wasn't that famous. So then when you get guys that are coming out and explaining some very symptomatic coaching, to me, it used to be such a stink, and I used to yell and scream because I was out there as a player wondering. And the thing is because I know what's right and wrong, I'm able to tell what's right and wrong. You know, other people can't. So when they go and they absorb that information, they think it's correct, only to lead them into the exact same place that they left, because then they have more questions than answers. I mean, I think part of that is healthy. Part of that cycle is healthy because then it allows you to basically grow. I mean, you're going to grow to the point where you're going to keep hitting walls. I mean, that's kind of how it is. But to the degree that it's to such an extreme is the part that I'm talking about that is very wrong. I like how I'm like going like on a tangent talking about all this shit, and then I'm like thinking of a comment in my head going, nobody cares about Rocket League, which I did, which I did get the other day, and I'm like, okay, you know. And David R. Hawkins, when it comes to like AAA, AA, yeah, AA. When you go into therapy for alcoholism, you don't fight alcoholism by literally fighting alcoholism. You do it by choosing sobriety. And the context of this whole conversation had to do with just, it's about you choose more powerful attractors to replace less powerful attractors. And what is attractor fields? Well, he goes on to reference David Bohm, his chaos theory, which had to do with attractor fields, because what he found was that when you get into applied kinesiology and behavioral kinesiology, the conclusions were led as such. They were led that if I were to smell vitamin C, and then if you were to smell artificial sweetener, and you were to do a test where I like literally hold my arm out laterally, and you try to push down, if you smell the artificial sweetener, you'll always go weak. But if I smell vitamin C, I'll stay strong. So it became wild because it's like, okay, well, let's do double blind tests. So let's do that the person doesn't know that there's vitamin C, and it doesn't know that and they're sealed in mini envelopes, you know. So he doesn't know that this mini envelope has artificial sweetener, and the person doesn't know that they're being tested, and they have to smell it in a lecture room full of 1,000 people that they're being that they have artificial sweetener or vitamin C. So when the person smelled it with 100% accuracy, 100% person every time, they did this in the lectures. When the person would smell artificial sweetener, they would go weak. When the person would smell vitamin C, they would, you know, you try to cold down, they would stay strong and they wouldn't be able to move. So they started to take this into behavioral kinesiology. It's like, well, first of all, your body has an intuitive knowledge of what is correct, and that immediately is a crazy jump in order to understand that conclusion. The next thing is like, well, can you tell a truth versus a lie? And so they started to play tapes of known deceit, such as Lyndon R. Johnson or the Chadwick incident. There's the Gulf Tonkin hoax and the Chadwick incident, I think, something like that. And they play tapes of these known deceits in Hitler, and they'll do the test. I'll hold out my hand. Someone will push down. Every time you listen to the known deceit, the guy will always go weak. But if you listen to somebody like Abraham Lincoln, or if you were to read the Bible, or you listen to Jesus speaking, you would stay strong. So even if you didn't have intimate knowledge of who the speaker was, your body was able to tell the truth. This is honestly one of the most incredible things you'll ever read, and that was in Power versus Force. And he starts to basically dive into the implications of that, as well as provide a number of contextual clues. God damn it! A number of contextual clues that are missing, that I'm missing right now in my speech, because I feel kind of rushed because I'm like, but so taking into account that, and also just taking into account that when I did my own, because I did my own psilocybin trip, and it was honestly very beautiful. What I got out of it was the feeling that no matter what, everyone was coming home. So, in other words, to me, there's a neat duality within talking about Rocket League coaching and talking about problems, because everyone's going to figure it out. They don't really need me, but I'm also here to do it because it inspires me. You know, it's frustrating to me that when I know that I'm a player, and when to feel trapped because and feel forced to have to go through, you know, like I was talking to Alex today. His name is Buddy. He played for Northwood, and you know, we keep tabs on each other here and there. And I was talking to him. I said I felt like I'm looking at professional coaching. I'm looking at professional coaching gigs and jobs and such, and thinking about going over into the pro scene. And he's just like, you're not going to be able to get in unless you have connections. He goes, it's all about connections. It's not really about skill. And I was just thinking, I was like, I know he's right. And that's the thing that really upsets me, because there's a high degree of nepotism. And so he says, I'd say looking collegiate-wise is your best bet at making money. Breaking into the pro stuff requires connections only, not about your skill. I was like, fuck. And he goes, you don't want to, if you want to be involved in pro, he goes, you need to start posting on Twitter, which we previously had spoken about this, and I just fucking hate Twitter. I just feel like it's totally toxic, particularly in Rocket League. It's just a bunch of kids that bitch at each other, and I didn't want to be involved at it, so I deleted my account after a while because I was still getting sucked into it. He goes, you need to start posting on Twitter, getting into Discords, talking to the players in friend groups, or coach a team to the top like young whippersnappers, and hope that team outperforms everyone's expectations 10 times, and then you'll get some respect, dude. And I said, I just have PTSD, dude. I just feel like I'll be crawling into that hole of depression again, and right now I'm finally free from it. He goes, yeah, personally, not worth it if you ask me. And I go, I hated it. And he goes, I did too. I'm glad to be gone. He goes, but, and then we start talking to each other about car shit. That's the thing. I was just like, it's really sad. It was like, you know, it's all about connections. It's less about skill. I know for a fact that everything that I say could be done at a pro level, and it's fucking awesome. I know for a fact. That's honestly really saddening, but I remember, and this is something from my own experiences. In the whole thing when I was in rank A was really, really tough, dude. Rank A was really brutal. I didn't like just the sheer mental strain of feeling like I had to perform, on top of the fact that there was nothing else I could do. You know, I didn't have a job at the time. I couldn't get one. I didn't have a car, and I was usually stuck at home, and I didn't know what else to play, and I didn't really have any friends. You know, so to anybody that's seriously looking at going pro, like, you have to be insane, and you really genuinely have to have nothing better. That's the funny part to me, because unless you really thoroughly enjoy the game, really stick with it out of enjoyment, usually you're not really going to get anywhere. And even if you're on the older side, you're looking at, like, you're maybe 18, you're going to be jumping into the workforce by the time you're good enough to you know, and with your aspirations of going pro. You know what I mean? And I would say that working a job that is meaningful, at least, try to avoid like restaurants in particular. I mean, I'm trying to avoid it as much as possible. But if you do anything else other than that, there's more meaning that's involved in your life. I would say, though, be careful because I really respect my dad for this. My dad, the short story with my father is this. I asked my dad when I was like 16 or 17, 18, I was like, somewhere around that. It's like, why don't I work? Why don't I get a job? And he was just like, I don't want you to become a slave to the money. And that really got me because now that I'm older, I can see coworkers that are all like, oh yeah, dude, this place makes great money. And that's all they talk about. It's like the weirdest thing ever. It's like, that's all they talk about is just money. And you're like, do you have anything else going on in your personality? I mean, other than fucking chicks on your weekends? You know what I'm saying? But like, where's the depth? You know, where's the emotional depth that we're talking about? Where's the character? Where's the love, dude? Where's the love, man? So, I say this with a degree of lightheartedness. I'm going to move back onto the coaching problem. I say this with a degree of lightheartedness because the truth is everyone's coming home. Everyone's going to figure it out. But also, I'm here now, and I have the knowledge, and I have the skills. I have it. I've lived the life of somebody who was partly insane and had nothing better to do, and now I just play casual games, and when I'm not playing Rocket League, I'm replacing it with something else. So I guess you could say that the fucking competitive niche has never left. But you know what? That sure as hell beats going back into basically what I did before, which what I did before was brutal. It was mentally, it was fucking thinking of like the Dune 2 clip where fucking Thanos, he was going over to in the beginning scene of like the first like 10 minutes of the movie, and they're having their mini spar, and they're all like, they're brutal. That's what I'm thinking of. It was brutal. Brutal. It was mentally fucked up, and you know, I was like fucking begging for something else other than what I had, and now I'm finally here. Now I'm here in my fucking crazy apartment dealing with my own shit, and I'm finally figuring it out. You know, like I'm a little free from it, and you know, Buddy's saying the same shit, and every time I talk to him about it, and we go back and forth, it just seems like it's just not worth it. You know, and it's mainly just the pro scene. It's mainly just the pro scene because there's a lot of nepotism that's involved. And in fact, I see a lot of guys that are you know, underqualified that are getting professional coaching. And I'm like, how the fuck are you getting anything remotely close to any professional coaching? Like, you know, like, you don't really have anything of value to offer. I know some of these guys. Although there are some people that are pretty good, or they are. So I'm not speaking for them. I'm just you guys know mainly who I'm talking about. Those guys in particular, they've had their fair share of releasing a lot of symptomatic coaching and bad content, and for that, I would say I will not stand for it. But also, the thing is that got me was, you know, I used to yell and scream at that whole thing of people just didn't know any better because, you know, they haven't lived it versus me, you know, so who can actively go and say something, and then they go and they watch bad coaching, they think it's the right thing. Well, the thing is that people can actually tell the truth versus they can tell a lie. You know, based on, and that had to do with their intuition. People were actually much more, and in general, the populace, despite the fact that I get like 10 million fucking haters on my YouTube, and the consensus says otherwise, I would say that there are a lot of people that are out there that genuinely have a very refined intuition, and when it comes down to the truth, they're pretty fucking good at nailing down what the truth versus a lie is. So it sort of shed weight a lot of the burden of responsibility that I had to sit there and to come out with coaching content as like, you know, I can, but I also can't. Like, you know, like it mattered, but it did not at the same time. That's the cool thing. So, I'm trying to avoid crawling back into that hole and trying to, I'm like, that's the weird part is right now I'm teetering right on the edge of going back. Because in order to go back and to stay involved in the coaching, I have to be involved as a player as well. I gotta still keep up and keep tabs with shit. But even that, staying involved a little bit is staying involved within that energetic field. And being involved in that energetic field is basically the problem that we're talking about, where a lot of that energy is very egoistic. It's very low vibe, wins, losses, and, you know, cult clan culture like we had fucking Ska Clan in Rank 8 back then. And I mean, it's just a repeat of the same shit that leads into, you know, from 13-year-olds and the cycling of these 13, 14-year-olds that get into the pro scene. I mean, what's the average age, honestly? Isn't it like 16 or 15 in Rocket League? I mean, let's just put that in perspective there. I feel like Rocket League has hit a wall now where it's like the Fortnite effect. You know, Fortnite when it first came out was fucking badass. I played it with tons with friends, and it was absolutely so much fun. And there weren't a lot of sweats. It was a competitive casual game where it bridged that balance where we could go and we could play and we could have fun and we could have a lot of losses, but we could have some wins there. And that was fucking dope. That was dope. But then all of a sudden, within a few years, they come out with a competitive scene, and boom, now people are just building walls and towers within like 0.2 seconds. I'm like, what the fuck? And in the same thing in Rocket League, you got guys that are out there like fucking Zen, who they put their heart and soul into the game, and then they become so good that they hit this like mechanical ceiling. It makes the game like totally not enjoyable. I mean, I come from that older time where there was less of that. There wasn't all the crazy flip resets in it. It was just it was a lot to do with positioning and stuff like that. So, part of my coaching has evolved from that time. And to watch a sort of degradation from that as it goes in a more mechanical play, and to basically that if you don't have the mechanics to beat 2-3 defenders, you can't go pro. It's just totally unrealistic, because then you have these unrealistic standards. In order for me to be any good at the game, I have to be somebody that can hit a double, triple flip reset. When those guys that can do that represent 0.00001% of the population. Genuinely. I mean, I'm 1800 right now, and I can hit maybe double flip resets. I can't do them nearly as consistent as some of the pros do. Thing is I still get people on my comments and in my YouTube going, I don't know how you're 1800. I feel like you giving the controller to somebody because you fucking blow. And it's just like, people have genuinely these unrealistic standards of what good Rocket League looks like, because that at a very high level, honestly, it's not going to be that you're going to be able to hit double flip, triple flip resets, fucking musty double flip resets coming off the fucking ceiling and being able to score back. I mean, you'll hit those maybe once or twice in a tournament. Like, more than 99% of the player base is not going to be able to do that, and then you watch it and you think it looks easy, but then you can't do it, and then those people are going and commenting on my stuff going, oh yeah, you fucking suck, Strange. It's like, resident sleeper, dude. Resident sleeper. Good Rocket League is not all mechanics, man. Honestly. Also, discussion to talk about is editing. We have a choice. So I could lighten up on the editing and create something more quality, and have it be a lot more articulate and concise and clear, coherent. Or we can continue with the barrage of information where I just post every day. And, this comes down to, what are we doing here for the editing? So we have a couple choices here. So I was watching a video about how your editing style mainly wants to be portrayed on the level of entertainment or authenticity. So if we look at like somebody like Sam Sulek, his vlogs, his average transition time is 1 minute and like 36 seconds, or 1 minute 13, 1 minute 3, something like that. So the time it takes for him to cut to a new scene, it takes 1 minute 13 seconds, 1 minute 3 seconds. But if you watch Mr. Beast, it takes him 2 seconds. The average time to cut, 2 seconds. Okay? So your editing style is basically a match for how you want your channel to be. So if you want it to be more on the level of entertainment, you would probably go with something like Mr. Beast does. And if you want it to be more on the level of Sam Sulek with vlogging and authenticity, you would probably run it with less entertainment but more authenticity. Where I've been going with the channels more on the authenticity side and less to do with whatchamacallits, editing. Now the thing is sometimes I do release coaching content that could really use an editor, and to create that clear and concise way of doing stuff. So when it comes down to that, I know that we are missing in that area. However, I am leaning towards the channel, and I want to hear everyone's feedback on this. I am leaning towards the channel on creating something that is just wildly authentic, because I want to do more stuff like this. I want to do more stuff like this, where I'm talking to people and engaging. I grew up mainly a loner, but at least I could be a loner through a screen and talk to people who are other human beings that are there. You know what I mean? I feel like that's cool. I feel like that's much more enjoyable. So, willing to hear your feedback. We could slow down on the content, or we could just continue going business as usual. I think that covers everything. I think that gets everything off my chest. All right. Much love, you guys. I gotta run errands. Peace.